I never imagined that a simple day at work could completely shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. My name is Gideon Clark, 39, from Seattle, and I've been married to Maribel Foster for 12 years. I always considered myself a trusting man. I never snooped, never interrogated, never demanded constant updates. I believed in loyalty, in mutual respect. At least that's what I told myself. Maribel was always radiant, a force of energy that could light up any room. I used to admire her charisma, her wit, the way her laughter could fill even the smallest apartment. We shared so many quiet moments at the beginning, coffee at sunrise, weekend drives to the mountains, staying up late watching documentaries we both pretended to enjoy. For the first few years, it felt like we were invincible. But as with most things, the spark slowly dimmed. I noticed the first small changes, almost imperceptibly. Maribel would scroll her phone during dinner, barely acknowledging my presence. She'd say she was tired, too drained from work to talk, yet the way she hid her smile at some messages, the subtle flicker of amusement when I wasn't looking, those little signs gnawed at me. At first, I convinced myself I was imagining things. Maybe she was just busy, maybe she needed space. I continued to be the husband I thought she wanted. I fixed things around the house, handled bills, made dinner, sometimes even surprised her with little notes or her favorite pastries. I thought effort and patience could reignite the warmth we once had, but warmth didn't come back. Instead, there was coldness, a quiet distance that grew every day. Hugs became brief, kisses fleeting, and the intimacy that had been the foundation of our marriage faded into routine emptiness. Then came that Thursday. I had a meeting scheduled with Derek Simmons, a client I'd been coordinating with for months. Normally, it was just business, straightforward, professional. But I had a feeling that day. I couldn't put my finger on it. Just an odd unease I carried with me as I walked into the glass front office building downtown. The receptionist greeted me, usual pleasantries, and then I was called into Derek's office. I had no idea what was coming. Derek, leaning casually against his desk, looked at me with a faint, knowing smile. "Gideon," he said, almost teasingly, "you're her ex." I froze. My mouth went dry. For a moment, I didn't even understand. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. Derek's smile widened slightly, but his tone remained calm, almost amused. "Maribel," he said. "She's been very clear with me. She told me you were her ex." I felt the blood drain from my face. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the words. Ex? That didn't make sense. She had been at work just last night. We had argued, yes, over small things, but nothing that suggested she had ended anything. My thoughts collided in a whirlwind. Anger, confusion, disbelief. I left the meeting almost immediately, my car idling as my hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. I thought about confronting her, but something in me paused. I needed clarity, not a fight. When I walked into our apartment later that evening, I noticed her immediately. Maribel was standing by the kitchen counter, pale, almost ghostly, her eyes wide as if she had just seen something terrifying. Gideon?" she stammered, voice small. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, studying her expression. The playful, confident woman I had known seemed almost gone, replaced by someone who couldn't meet my gaze. "Derek called me," I said finally, my tone even, controlled. "He said I'm your ex." The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Maribel's lips parted, then pressed together again. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding mine entirely. I could feel the tension building, but I kept my voice steady, calm, the exact opposite of the storm I felt inside. "I don't understand," she whispered. I didn't say that." "Then why would he say it?" I asked, not angrily, just sharply enough to cut through the haze of excuses. She swallowed hard, and for the first time, I noticed the slight quiver in her hands. "Gideon, it's complicated. she said, but her voice betrayed her. She didn't have a story, not one that made sense. And in that moment, I realized something fundamental. The trust we had built, the love I thought was reciprocated, had eroded to something unrecognizable. I sat down slowly at the edge of the sofa, letting the quiet stretch out between us. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout or demand explanations. That wasn't me anymore. I just wanted to understand why the woman I loved could so easily place herself somewhere else in her mind, in someone else's narrative. The evening stretched on, and Maribel moved around the apartment, occasionally glancing at me, occasionally avoiding me entirely. I stayed quiet, letting the tension simmer. I wanted her to speak first, wanted the truth to come out on its own. But she never did. By the time night fell, I realized something crucial. I had spent years investing in someone who had quietly, almost imperceptibly, shifted away from me. The marriage wasn't ending with a fight or betrayal that was overt. It was ending through silence, deception, and the subtle erosion of connection. I had tried to revive it with patience, love, and effort, but all that effort had been met with indifference. I stood up, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I wasn't angry. I wasn't yelling. I was clear. I packed a small bag, my essentials, and left the apartment. Maribel didn't stop me. She didn't speak. She just watched me, white-faced, as if realizing too late the reality she had chosen. I drove to Rowan Mercer's place, my old friend who had been a silent observer of my marriage struggles for years. When I arrived, I didn't even explain at first. I just sat, letting the weight of everything I had endured settle on me. Eventually, I spoke, recounting the meeting, her words, her silence. Rowan listened, silent but understanding. Through the night, I thought about all the quiet sacrifices, all the efforts that had gone unnoticed, and all the love that had been met with distance. And yet I felt a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I realized that leaving wasn't an act of anger, but an acknowledgement of reality. Maribel had made her choice, and I was no longer willing to participate in a relationship that had ceased to exist. The next morning, sunlight spilling over the skyline, I felt lighter, freer, though still painfully aware of the absence. There was no dramatic confrontation, no cinematic storm of emotion, just a quiet, undeniable shift in my life. I had regained a small piece of dignity, a fragment of self-respect, and the knowledge that sometimes the hardest choice is the one that restores clarity. And somewhere in that quiet, I understood something fundamental. Love cannot survive in silence, and respect cannot endure in the absence of truth. I hadn't failed as a husband. The marriage had failed itself, quietly, deliberately, and without ceremony. And for the first time in years, I could breathe again, knowing I had chosen myself.